Let me make one thing clear. Culture is not some soft stuff. Culture is that stuff which can make or break your business. You can hire the smartest minds in the world. You can build the boldest of all strategies, and you can design the most creative dashboards. But if your culture cannot carry it, it'll all collapse. Every year, companies are spending millions of dollars to create strategic plans, but they're forgetting to ask a very simple yet critical question. Does our culture have the muscle to execute this strategy? And so, strategies dies. Not on paper, but in the corridors of your business, in those emails that never get answered, in those leaders who promote one behavior, reward the other. Yahoo had vision, but they lacked cultural stamina. Uber had strategy, but their culture turned toxic. Wells Fargo had values, but their incentives said to their employees, lie to your customer. You talk about agile, and all your managers do is slow down the process. You talk about collaboration, and your culture rewards individual performance. You talk about innovation, and all your culture does is punish experimentation and failures. And now you're wondering why your strategic initiatives are failing, why your strategic initiatives are not producing the results they were supposed to produce. Culture always wins, no matter how bold your strategy is. So, how do we fix this? How do we transform your culture from fighting your strategies to fueling your strategic execution? How do you create a culture that instead of becoming your weakness becomes your strategic weapon? To address this, I created a framework, a model, an operating system, 5 simple steps, each created by observing the best in the world, refined for real world execution, and designed for the leaders who are tired of seeing brilliant strategies die. Each step is proven, each step is executable, and each step is backed by business reality or theory. So, allow me to take you through this journey of C.S.I framework. C.S.I stands for Culture Strategy Integration Framework. Let's go through the steps. Step 1: Codify cultural priorities. Define the cultural DNA that fuels your strategy. Because if your culture is unclear, strategy will have no traction at all. What you stand for must be explicit, actionable, and livable. Now, how do you execute step 1 of codifying cultural priorities? Identify the values that directly support your business objectives. Reinforce those values through rituals, language, proper symbols, and leadership behavior. Make cultural clarity a daily discipline, not a quarterly initiative. Okay? Here, Spotify's example comes into mind. Spotify has something called Agile by Design, and that culture embeds Agile squads, Agile tribes, and Agile guilds, making agility not a value, but an operating procedure. That culture allowed them to outmaneuver giants like Apple Music. So if speed matters, codify speed. If ownership matters, codify ownership. If accountability is what you're looking for, codify accountability. Codify the cultural DNA. Step 1. Step 2 is synchronize your leadership with your culture. Your leadership and culture cannot be disconnected, right? So your culture is what your leaders behave or model, nothing more, nothing less. If leadership says one thing and does another, it promotes one behavior but rewards the other, then your strategy is already dead. How do you execute step 2 of synchronizing leadership with your culture? Redefine your leadership KPIs to reward the leaders for cultural alignment, not just revenue production. Create a communication playbook for your leaders and use reverse mentoring. Let the floor change the top if possible. Here, Indira Nui's example comes to mind. At PepsiCo, she linked executive incentives or compensation to culture, sustainability, diversity, and health. Leaders didn't just talk about values, they were measured by their values. So that is how you synchronize your leadership behavior with your culture. Step 3, institutionalize. Step 1 was codify, step 2 is synchronize, step 3 is institutionalize culture into your operations. Culture should live in how people are hired, how people are promoted, and how people are rewarded and measured. Don't ask HR to own the culture of your business. Culture is built into your systems, your habits, your rituals, not slogans. How do you execute the step of institutionalizing culture into operations? Hire people for values, not only for skills. Skill plus alignment to your cultural values, right? Major cultural contribution in performance reviews, which is rarely done. Build cross-functional teams that reflect the cultural agility of your business. Here, Netflix example comes into mind because Netflix didn't just say freedom and responsibility. They eliminated approvals at all, gave power to the edge, and rewarded initiatives. Culture wasn't a memo at Netflix, it was an operating model. You can apply for as many leaves as possible in a year. Don't need any approval. Ensure the job is done, right? That is how you institutionalize culture into operations and employee behavior. So, lesson is this: if your operation fights your values, your culture has to lose, and so does your strategy. Your operation cannot fight your values, it has to be in sync. Okay. Step 4, embed culture into decision making frameworks. Culture must guide your daily choices inside your business, not just the annual retreat. That's the biggest mistake I've seen leaders do inside companies. Every decision you make as a leader, it's a cultural signal. You want alignment, embed it in how choices are made inside your business. So how do you execute step 4? Use decision filters that ask, does this align with our cultural values? Use scenario planning to stress test your alignment. Bake ethics, well-being, and long-term trust into each part of your decision-making process. For example, in the case of Patagonia, from refusing unsustainable suppliers to donating for all for profit, Patagonia makes every major decision through a culture first lens. That's not branding, that's simplicity and integrity in action. Culture isn't what you say in safe meetings, it's how you act when money is on the table. Step 5. Measure, adapt, and sustain your culture. Culture isn't static, it evolves and it erodes, and that's how you must be fixing it. You must be doing course corrections. You track revenue weekly. Why aren't you tracking your cultural alignment on a weekly basis, monthly basis? How do you execute step 5 of measuring, adapting, and sustaining your culture? Establish culture strategy KPIs: engagement, trust, innovation, speed. Establish all of this into your KPIs. Run quarterly pulse checks for your alignment. Adapt rituals, language, and structure to fit your market shift. For example, in case of Airbnb, when scaling globally challenged their founding culture, Airbnb didn't resist that. They evolved from trust and safety tools to regulatory messaging. They updated their culture to keep the mission alive. Cultures that don't evolve, it evaporates. This is why I built the C.S.I framework, the Culture Strategy Integration Framework. It's not a theory, it's an operating system, and I have implemented it and I've seen this in action as well. This is how you stop your strategy from dying on day 2. 5 steps, 5 principles, all built from battle tested, real world success of businesses. Time for you to go ahead, execute it. If you have any issues implementing, deploying, leveraging culture strategy alignment inside your business, do write to me on the email ID given on your screen and let's have a chat. That's all I had for you in today's video. I'll see you in next week's video, hopefully. Till then, take care and be limitless.